The tower of power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey, ooh yeah!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is the Baseball and Beer Podcast, and I am your host. My name is Brendan Bowes, and today is another episode bringing you the best news that I can in both beer and baseball. This time around, again, I am going to be talking about football, but you know the drill at this point. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Twitter, you can send me an email is baseballbeerpodcast@gmail.com, and if you want the website, which you can find the other episodes, it is baseballandbeerpodcast.blogspot.com.
Beer is good, beer is good, beer is good, and stop!
To make a super long story short, we're going to wait another week before talking about beer again, just because I've totally been out of the loop myself over the last few weeks. And I know that things are going to start changing for me. I know tonight I am going back to Treehouse for the first time in 3 months or so, pick up some beverages, and get back into the swing of things in terms of dropping some knowledge on brewskis for you guys. And I apologize for calling them brewskis. That is not my normal terminology for it. So I'll bust down some knowledge on beer for you guys next week after I get a chance to rev up my own knowledge, as it were. I mean, the one thing that I can say is that there have been a few beer breweries that I've really appreciated during my downtime. Night Shift is one of them. Trillium is another. I think I've talked about them before. But they've pretty much kept me normal during this time where I haven't been able to really divulge in. Barely even homebrewed. It's been a lot of nothing for a while. But again, that's changing, so keep your eyes forward, and next week I will be talking about beer. Don't know what specifically, but we'll get into that when the time comes.
But it was the left guard who didn't back up his man. Oh, why can't they see?
All right, so last week we talked about the first round of the NFL draft, specifically for the Raiders, and how they picked Carl Joseph, safety, and how out of West Virginia, and how that was kind of a reach that a lot of people thought. But, I mean, the bottom line is that I was happy with the pick. Safety was definitely a position of need for the Raiders, and they addressed it with picking the best safety in the draft. They tried to trade down so that it would be more value to the pick, but no one was biting. No one was willing to give up a second or third round pick in order to move up a couple of spots, but it is what it is. Carl Joseph should be producing pretty quickly for the Raiders. Like I mentioned before, probably not a starter, but definitely in the rotation, and will probably outshine whoever is starting and become a starter more towards the end of the year, depending on how the Raiders perform. So that's a good thing. As for the rest of the draft, I'll go down the list here and go over some aspects of everyone, but some more than others. In the second round, the Raiders actually did another reach. This gentleman here was projected to be a third round, fourth round pick, but Reggie McKenzie decided, hey, I am going to take him in the second round. So they selected Illinois defensive lineman Jihad Ward. Yep, that's his name, Jihad. He's kind of a hybrid player, both tackle and defensive end, so he'll probably be a rotational guy, at least in the beginning, if not focusing more on the tackle side of things. I'm not too sure about him if he's better in pass rush or rush. I'm not sure if he's better at pass rushing or stopping the run. I do know that he's not proficient in both of them, obviously, or else he wouldn't have been he would have been a first round pick. But he should be solid. The draft experts say that, again, it was a reach to pick him in the second round, especially towards the top of the second round. But as long as he hits his ceiling or gets near his ceiling, the value of the pick should be worth it. But again, the issue is that it's a small ceiling to get on. So hoping for the best, expecting the worst type of deal. Third, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's first name. I am gonna give it a good old college try. Shalique Calhoun, Shilique Calhoun, out of Michigan State. He is the linebacker for the Michigan State Spartans. He again, actually, he was projected as a late second rounder, so. The Raiders did get value with getting him in the third. He has gone on record saying that he has admired Khalil Mack and be working alongside Khalil along with Mario Edwards on the end, and hopefully being a force to come. And again, a third rounder is probably going to start off as a rotational guy, if anything, but he has a bigger ceiling to hit than G had. So hopefully he hits it, or at least comes very close to it, and Raiders add some more defensive depth like they attacked this offseason. Fourth round. What can be said about the fourth rounder? So I guess to set it up, obviously the Raiders have a good quarterback in Derek Carr. Second rounder that they got 2 years ago. He's really come into place. He's really solid. There's really no concern for his future. As long as he stays healthy, doesn't get injured, he's a very good quarterback. He knows how to throw the ball. He's smart. He's definitely developed over the last few years into a good quarterback. There's nothing bad to say about Derek or his future. The backup quarterback, though, is a little bit different. Matt McGloin was an undrafted free agent out of Penn State. Obviously, as a backup quarterback, you're not expected to do much, but if the time comes, you have to do a job. Matt isn't a good quarterback. It's not a good backup quarterback. He's complacent. He's fine if the time really needs him to. But if Derek Carr goes down, we're in a boatload of trouble. That being said, Reggie McKenzie decided to trade up in the fourth round so we could get Connor Cook out of Michigan State. So back-to-back Michigan State Spartans are now drafted to the Raiders. Connor is, I believe he was either the fourth or fifth top quarterback in the draft. There's a lot of argument. Traditionally, it went Goff, Wentz, Paxton Lynch, and then there was some argument about who goes after Paxton. It was either Connor Cook or Dak Prescott. But regardless, Oakland traded up for Connor, and probably not get. A lot has been rumored about why they picked him. Some of it was to screw over the Cowboys for whatever reason, because they are looking for a quarterback. Also to screw over the Chiefs, which makes a bit more sense since they're division rivals. But as of right now, Connor Cook has no place as a Raider. He's definitely not starting, obviously. But rumor has it that they're going to see if he can develop as during training camps and practices and such, so he could be leveraged as a trade chip in the future. Probably, a third round pick if he develops well, second round pick if he develops really well, can only hope for the best. After the third round, you're really just closing your eyes and throwing a dart at a dartboard. Nothing's really for certain. Fifth round, the Raiders actually went ahead and grabbed a running back, DeAndre Washington from Texas Tech. What's good about him is that he's a good complementary running back to Latavius Murray, who is going to be taking the majority of carries. But with Latavius Murray, he had a knee injury a few years ago. He's healthy as he can be, but you always want that backup there. and DeAndre Washington is fine, whereas Latavius Murray is just a tiny guy who can plow through everything. DeAndre has a bit more finesse, a bit more ability. So developing him as Latavius Murray continues on is pretty smart. Hopefully, DeAndre, can be as good as Latavius Murray, because that would be fantastic having that sort of two-headed monster. But, it's, again, a solid pick. Sixth round, Raiders went ahead and drafted a offensive lineman. Vidal Alexander, guard out of Louisiana State University. From what I read about him, he was projected as a second or third rounder, but dropped obviously significantly due to the fact of character concerns, as well as a poor showing on the combine. Whether or not you believe in the combine and what the numbers mean for the overall production of the player, obviously teams still do, and Mr. Alexander here is a good reason why. When you're originally projected to be a third rounder and you drop to the sixth round, A, that's a lot of money that you're losing up front. B, that's potentially a lot of money that you're losing going forward as a football career. With that said, as a sixth rounder, it's a good risk. If he does match up the way he should be, it's a very good depth draft pick for the offensive line that they shored up this offseason with Kameli Asawali. So I really wouldn't expect him to make an impact this year, next year, whenever. But in case something happens to the offensive line, it's good to have a potentially good prospect that you got in the sixth round ready to go. So it's good to hear. Overall, I'm not a grader. I'm not a school teacher. I don't know how to give grades to objective things like this. But I'm happy with it. It wasn't perfect. But obviously, due to the fact that the Raiders had a decent year and they were drafting 14th, obviously that limits the potential prospects that they are able to get. So with where they were, they drafted pretty well. Reggie McKenzie loves taking risks with draft picks, as he did his first year picking DJ. I wanted to say DJ Hyde, but that's not it. That's a professional wrestler. Wow, I totally forgot his name. All right, doesn't really matter at this point. He picked that cornerback that he really reached for, who hasn't produced at all. So we got that going for us. But this offseason has been certainly an A. You can definitely argue for an A+. So looking forward to this season for legitimately the first time in forever. Hopefully everything goes about as well as it can. Injuries are limited. People dropping off in terms of performance is limited. Everyone who was playing bad starts to rise up, get into their game a little bit more, and hopefully the Raiders are looking at a playoff hunt this season. I, for one, would be happy, and you probably will see me and hear me dancing along the streets forever.
Single, double, triple, home run. For the celebration, I'll shoot my gun.
Moving along to baseball. Kind of teased this last week, but Major League Baseball has been reporting that within the next few days, it's been the next few days for like the last week, but within the near future, MLB is going to announce a whole bunch of baseball players that have been suspended due to getting caught red-handed with performance-enhancing drugs. They gave no hint as to who it's going to be. Early last week, they popped D. Gordon of the Florida Marlins. He is serving 80 games, and like I mentioned before, the first baseman for the Blue Jays, Chris Calabro, I think that's how it's pronounced, is also serving an 80-game suspension for getting popped for PEDs. Now, I know what you're thinking. D. Gordon is a super scary power hitter, so of course he's using steroids. It's pretty obvious. Just look at him. He's a huge, massive man who is chiseled out of marble. Okay, I can't go on. He's a tiny, tiny man who's known for running fast and contact hitter. Chris Calabro never really amounted to much. I forget if it was early for beginning of this season or late last season, but Taylor Teagarden, catcher prospect, also got popped for PEDs. He is a toothpick of a catcher. Had trouble getting, past 10 home runs in a season. He doesn't have any power. The point I am making is that obviously Major League Baseball has rules. One of the rules is that these are substances that you cannot take, and if you do take it and we catch you, you're in trouble. So that's that. I can't argue with that. My quote-unquote issue is that PEDs are not like, it's not like Popeye eating spinach where you eat where you shoot yourself with PEDs or steroids or whatever, and you suddenly get big, and there's happy music playing behind you as you just start knocking the cover off the baseball. It's not how these work. You still have to do. Let me take a step back. I'm not condoning the use of performance enhancing drugs. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy them. You really shouldn't, unless you really get in depth with your healthcare provider, your doctor, and he lays down the law for you. But they don't work like spinach. That's what I'm boiling down. Like, I'll use A-Rod as an example since he is the most recent big name guy that got caught. He didn't go into the dugout after the fourth inning, shoot his butt full of steroids, and then just jack a dinger. That's not how it works. A lot of people who get busted, and I'm assuming that's the case with D. Gordon and Chris Calabro and Taylor Teagarden, a lot of people use steroids for recovery. These are players who are playing 160 some odd games every season, every year, with very little time off. Including the All-Star break, they probably have 15 to 20 days off in 180 days. That's crazy. Just and then if you want to take it one step further, 90% of those days are traveling. So it's not even a day off. You're stuck in an airplane, traveling across the country. So these guys don't have a lot of time to heal themselves during the season. They need a way to get back to perform at the level that they're known for. Yeah, they take drugs. It's a really tough conversation to have because it seems like I'm just condoning everyone shooting themselves up with performance-enhancing drugs, which would be fun, but it's not really what I'm aiming for here. People should really fully understand the concept of performance-enhancing drugs. Yes, it makes your muscles bigger, gives you more mass, makes you faster. It gives you the extra twitch in your, extremities that you need to throw a baseball a little bit further or get the baseball bat around a little bit quicker. But you still need to be immensely talented to do the stuff that Alex Rodriguez does, or Barry Bonds did, or Mark McGwire did. These guys had enormous talent without the steroids. Did their performance get affected positively? Possibly, but you can't put a number on the amount of home runs that Bonds hit using steroids because it's impossible to find out. He still walks a lot. Steroids doesn't affect your eyeballs. It doesn't make your eyeballs stronger. And even if you want to take it another step, people in the 70s, 60s, 50s, the good old times, they were taking greenies, which are amphetamines, drugs that affect your focus, give you basically super focus. So what does super focus mean? Basically, they have the ability to study a lot longer on pitchers. Pitchers have, the ability to study longer on hitters. When you are in the game, it changes your perception of what's going on. Everything becomes, greenies are a student would take greenies so that they can focus when they study for a test. Their ability to look at their paper, look at their notes, and engulf that information becomes a lot easier to do when you've taken amphetamines. So to put that in baseball terminology, when you're at the plate facing a pitcher and you are on greenies or amphetamines, your focus, it's almost superhero-esque. So that ball looks like it's going 20 miles per hour as you're swinging at it. So even though it's not technically considered a PED, greenies are a drug that enhances performance, or it was used to enhance performance. So it is a double standard that we look at these guys from the mid 90s to the mid 2000s and shun them for something that not even is 100% provable. Yet we allow the numbers from the greenies users, the people who threw spitballs, who put corks in their bat. Rules were bent all the time in baseball. They will always be bent in baseball because, like I said, these players need to make money. And in order to make money, they have to give off the perception they're a great baseball player. So assistance is always going to be needed, whether it's legally done through the permission of the ballpark and through permission of baseball, or whether they have to sneak through the cracks and go behind backs in order to become the player that they want to be and make the money that they need to. So it's just a situation that baseball put themselves in, and they don't really seem too quick or too keen on solving the problem that they caused. They're just looking to put Band-Aids on the leaks that they've made. So it's going to be this way for a while, regardless of who gets busted with this new set of suspensions. And I can assure you it's not going to be Jake Arrieta. It's not going to be anyone worth a damn. I mean, there might be one or two people who people might go, oh yeah, I know them. It's not going to be anyone big. Otherwise that would have leaked already. It's just going to be a bunch of no names. Again, maybe one or two people you might be familiar with, but it's not going to be anyone big. And I've said that same thing like 12 times. But let's let's make this baseball talk a little bit lighter, but we're about to go into another dark territory here. John Danks, pitcher of the Chicago White Sox, former pitcher of the Chicago White Sox, yesterday or 2 days ago, Tuesday, he was designated for assignment by the White Sox. Danks declined the assignment, meaning that he's not going to go to Charlotte, the AAA team. He is going to be released. So the White Sox are paying John Danks roughly $13.5 million to do nothing, to sit on his couch, watch TV, take phone calls from other teams, and then play for other teams. That's right. Someone like the Detroit Tigers or the Twins can call Danks up, say, we want you to play for us, we'll give you this amount of money, which is going to be the veteran minimum. I don't know how much that is, but then Danks can go play for the Twins or play for the Tigers, and the White Sox are still going to have to pay him $13.5 million, or, well, at that point it'd be $12 million, but the gist is the White Sox have the chance to pay Danks to play against him. The White Sox are in a position to have Danks pitch against them while being paid by the White Sox. Yeah, we'll go that route. I mean, obviously, it may not mean much because Danks isn't a good pitcher anymore. It's sad to see him go. He was the longest tenured White Sox player. I don't even know who it goes to right now. I guess it's Sale. But Danks did a lot for the team in the beginning of his career. He had shoulder surgery probably around 2011, 2012, and his career never really healed from that. It's been a lot of almost had it and nearly theirs, but for the most part, he hasn't performed up to the way he should have, even in the position as a number 5. We'll miss John Danks. Like I said, he's been around with the team forever. Hope he finds success with another team, regardless of what team it is, just as long as he doesn't succeed against the White Sox, regardless if it's during the regular season or if we end up playing against him in the World Series. Thanks, John. In terms of replacing John Danks, right now the White Sox are using Eric Johnson. It could be a rotation thing between, for previously mentioned, Eric Johnson, Jacob Turner, or Miguel Gonzalez. Also in the conversation, the White Sox are thinking of signing Tim Lincecum, former pitcher of the Giants. Lincecum is having a showcase for himself tomorrow, Friday, for any team that's willing to travel and watch. So there should be a big audience because Tim Lincecum is known as a fantastic pitcher. The idea is that you're signing a formerly great pitcher for cheap, and he gets to work under the tutelage of Don Cooper and figure out what the fuck's wrong and how the fuck to save it. Lincecum is who I would like, personally. Really, anyone but Miguel Gonzalez. I can't stand that guy. He stinks. The fact that everyone started freaking out that they signed him just angered me. Regardless, the White Sox are still doing very well. Still in first place, playing the rubber game against the Red Sox tonight. So hopefully we can get a win and take it from there. All right, that does it for another episode of the Baseball and Beer Podcast. You can reach me the following ways. If you are on Facebook and want to join my Facebook group, it is facebook.com/baseballbeerpod. Twitter.com/baseballbeerpod. Otherwise, @baseballbeerpod. If you want to send me an email address, like I said at the beginning of the show, it is baseballbeerpodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to check out the website, which all previous episodes are stored at, if you're not a member of iTunes and or Stitcher, it is baseballandbeerpodcast.blogspot.com. Again, this is Baseball and Beer Podcast. I am your wonderful host, Brendan Bowes. Have a good weekend, everyone. I will talk to you soon.
Are you excited?
I'm so excited.
Awesome.
I do not like Julia Roberts movies.